Like to welcome you at our third session. Here we will discuss best practices of social entrepreneurship under COVID-19. I would like to thank the organizers for this event, and I would like to remind you that you can watch our stream on Facebook and you can find us as well. Let me remind you how we started off in 2020, in spring of 2020. COVID-19 pandemic became quite a challenge for every world, and it was also the challenge to the healthcare system of those countries, so that the citizens could be provided with the timely healthcare. Ukraine, as well as the other countries in the European Union, believes that the human life is in the core of decision-making process, opted for the strategy that was applied in Europe as well, the strategy to counter the COVID-19 pandemic. That's why the Cabinet of Ministers passed a decree to prevent the spread of acute respiratory distress syndrome COVID-19 that is caused by SARS-CoV-2 as of 11th of March, number 211. According to that decree, the quarantine was introduced in the territory of Ukraine, the so-called lockdown. The strict measures were introduced, including the closing of public transports, closing intercity communication, and closing of borders. The mass events became forbidden, and only critical infrastructure facilities were allowed to work, like pharmacies or gas stations. At the same time, the catering and eating out facilities were not allowed to work, and the educational facilities started the remote education process. The entrepreneurs were not sure about the duration of this ban, as at first a 3-week quarantine was announced, and later on it was extended until May 22nd. And after that, the adaptive quarantine was introduced so that each region decides on whether the measures should become more stringent or not. According to Cabinet of Ministers Decree number 46, the regions of Ukraine were now color coded in accordance with the epidemiologic situation and the threat of COVID-19 spread. So we are joined here today by the social entrepreneurs who will tell about their cases, how they survived during COVID-19 pandemic. And today we have MAXIM, the founder of Trava social enterprise, OLENA LOGVINENKO. She is the head of social project Transcarpathia Hearts of Gold. ALINA MARNENKO, manager and co-founder of Museum in the Dark, 3 a.m. KOVALYSHYN, Anna PONIKARCHUK, co-founder of OZERO Zero Waste Company, and ILONA SHEVCHUK, founder of social enterprise Potrib.
Чи все на зв'язку?
Are we all here?
Давайте запитаємо Максима ваш досвід трансформування
Let's ask Maxim about his experience of transforming his business under COVID-19. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maxim POTAPCHUK. I was born in Donetsk. And at the moment, my social business is functioning in almost all regions of Ukraine. Trava.ua, this is the company that produces tea plants from Transcarpathia and provides also eco catering. With the beginning of the pandemic, it was hard to adapt right away since one of the elements of our business is herbal tourism and eco catering. By herbal tourism, I mean that we have tourist groups and we go to the Carpathian Mountains together with them so that we could study herbs and plants in mountains. And eco catering means catering without the use of synthetic materials. Given the conditions, our revenues dropped to almost zero, so we've decided to focus on production. We had some residual funds and we also were able to sell our tea blends. Actually, we had the sales of tea blends going up in June. So that is what helped us survive. How did your business model change? And why did it change? You know, our business model didn't change much actually. We started producing new tea blends. So we didn't feel that negative impact as our colleagues did. So it means that you came up with a new product. Yes, yes, we started looking for the new product, the new formats of sales. We also decided to focus more on training, and we successfully overcame the peak of the pandemic. Did you use any loan funds or financial facilities? No, no, we didn't use any loans. We didn't borrow any money. We had the funds on our accounts, and that is something that saved us. But I would like to stress that we are a startup company, so we are only breaking even right now. We started making profit quite recently. So, in brief, what's your success formula? We had barter conditions with many of our partners. For instance, the tools or some services are provided to us under barter agreement. And that helped us a lot as well. So you need to look for financial tools and you need to find the way out and not to wait until the pandemic is over or the crisis is over. Thank you. And what about OLENA LOGVINENKO from Transcarpathia Hearts of Gold project? Is she with us? Good afternoon. Hello, OLENA. Good afternoon. I'm from Luhansk myself.
Олена, може, ви від чогось відмовились, чи
Alona, what about you? Did you have to refuse from something, or what measures did you take during the pandemic? We opened our confectionery on the 30th of December 2019 on the eve of New Year. So before coronavirus crisis occurred, we were working only for 3 months, and we haven't actually noticed that something happened and that the startup started making losses because we only started our work. Actually, due to the quarantine, we decided to test our assortment of the product, and it was not in high demand. So during quarantine, we decided to promote our brand for our confectionery, and we were self-isolating, and we came up with the new brand for our confectionery that is called Purpley. And this is the line for gingerbread cookies and cakes and desserts. So after the total lockdown was over and the measures were relaxed, our desserts were quite in demand. So I believe that for our social enterprise, the quarantine was actually even of benefit because this was the reboot of our activities. We took another look at our project and we have decided to become more business oriented. And one of the part of our project, and I am the mother of a child with autism myself, and we didn't want just to become the self-sufficient business. So we want to hold events for socialization of people with disabilities. And it requires a lot of efforts. We have guests from Poltava visiting right now. They are also persons with autism. And our project has few elements to it. The one is the confectionery, and the other part of our project is to show Ukrainian community the opportunities of people with disabilities. And we want to show that they have their own skills and that they have their own talents. So all social entrepreneurs were trying to cope with this challenge, and they came up with new ideas. You can ask your questions online on our Facebook page. Any other recipe? On my part, I would like to say that it is very important not to be focused only on yourself. And not to be too much concerned about your personal profits and financial resources. I believe that we also need to cooperate with the local authorities, and we need to take part in the competitions for social projects and get funding at such calls for proposals. And during quarantine, we were able to get funds from the competition in which we won. We were competing with other projects, and thanks to that monetary prize, we were able to pay our rent. So I think that we need to cooperate with the local governments. We need to forge the dialogue since the companies like ours, the social enterprises, they inspire changes and they should be supported by one way or another from the local budget, from the city budget, from the regional budget. And at some point, that would become the backbone for the social enterprise not to close down. Since we know that the crisis can come at any moment. But we need to try not to make debts during this kind of times. We have to move on because we are changing lives of people.
Один из таких ключевых моментов,
Thank
это,
you.
конечно,
Thank you
аренда,
very
да,
much.
если
The
знать,
rent,
что
yes, paying
при
rent.
закрытии бизнеса все равно надо платить за аренду.
We all know that
А
even
как,
if you close down your business,
Алена,
you have to pay rent.
ага, следующая у нас Алина идет, дальше будет
Alina
рассказывать. Вот интересно, а как
is
Алина
our
справлялась
next speaker. So I was
с
wondering how Alina coped with the rent payment, and she is the co-founder of a museum in the dark 3 a.m. Oh, I don't want to talk about rent payment right away. I would like just to tell you a few words about our work. Museum in the Dark, 3 a.m. This is the museum where guided tours are conducted in complete darkness. It means that this is the space that is the recreation of some real sites. For instance, we have something like landscapes, areas, and various objects, and all that is in the darkness. So our visitors are capable of experiencing what it's like not to see anything and have their daily routines. For instance, crossing the street at the traffic light, or attending to their usual business. And you know that helps to debunk the stereotypes that people have with regard to people with disabilities. And you know, many people experience some obstacles in terms of communication, and with this kind of tours, they become more confident in terms of communication. And you know, we do not explain it to them. People are able to change their opinion in a natural way during these guided tours. And another part of our work is the employment for persons with visual impairments. And we have six guides with visual impairments, and we've been working for 3 years. And our experience is offline. So with the beginning of quarantine, we had some troubles with that. At the beginning of March, we realized that we are not able to have lengthy guided tours. Many museums started offering their products online by having the stream of their exhibitions, but that was not the option for us, because our museum is all about offline experience. So we started brainstorming, and the first thing we did, we decided to streamline our costs. We curtailed everything unnecessary, and we agreed about difference of our rent payment. And that is the response to Igor's question. And we knew that we had to pay rent anyway. We agreed about the discount, even though at the very beginning of quarantine, I actually was expecting my landlord to let us not pay the rent for some time, to suspend it. That would make sense, but that didn't happen. And we also curtailed some costs, made some cuts, for instance, mobile phone, internet, some minor expenses, but actually they compacted to quite a substantial amount monthly. And we also had some money in reserve, so we made calculations how long that would suffice us. We had various ideas what to do, and we were able to do anything to get our team working, and to leave until the day when the guided tours would be back. And we came up with two formats. One was quite unexpected for us. That was an online format, something that was a big surprise. Online quests for school children that were guided by our guides with visual impairments. And with those quests, we were helping school children to feel information, and also we got them equated with the persons with disabilities. That was a very unusual format, and we were able to extend our target audience. Quite often, we have parents coming with their children to our museums, but children are scared of darkness, and online quests were for children starting from the age of 4, and these kids don't even know that there are people with visual impairments. That is something totally new to them. This is the format that we will continue in the future. So the quarantine actually helped another format which we launched. That is the guided tour around the city with visually impaired persons. Since it got warmer, we decided to have the guided tours around the city, but not inside the building since it was prohibited. And we continue type of activities in parallel to our main activities. These are the changes that we had during the quarantine. I cannot say that the quarantine had no impact on us, and I cannot say that it was not the negative impact. Well, we were able to come up with some new formats, but still have some debts because of the quarantine, but we were able to survive until reopening. So they were pros and cons in this period of time, but the new formats, that's great. Thank you very much for your story.
Никакая ни аренда, ни зарплата.
So the rent payment, the payroll,
Повлиять на вас. Надо
it
постоянно
had no impact. So you had to make all those payments, right? Well, firstly, we had some money in reserve. I know that many people didn't have that kind of reserve, and I'm this kind of person who wants to be safe. So we had some amounts saved, and it enabled us surviving through first few months, and we knew that we will be able to pay the salaries. And yes, the pay rent, we agreed about the difference of rent payment with our landlord. Our landlord allowed us not to pay all the amount as one installment. We have the debt rescheduling plan, but still it helped us a lot. So the salaries, yes, that's the biggest share in our expenses, but that burden also went down because the workload also went down during the lockdown.
Лина, вы планируете ближайшие там год
Alina, do you have any plans in the next year, 2 or 3?
что будет, если все будет плохо?
Do you have any strategy or plan for the best case scenario and worst case scenario? Well, that's quite a good question. Something I forgot to mention. We've been working for 3 years already, and before the quarantine, we were doing quite well. We held over 20,000 guided tours. We were quite confident about our business model. We were able to cover our monthly expenses, and we decided to scale up our activities. So we wanted to open a museum in Lviv, and we even started working on that. So our museum in Lviv was supposed to be opened in autumn. So due to the quarantine, we had to schedule for the next year. And the quarantine actually changed our business model. We now have online format. That's a totally different format. Besides, we have the redistribution of the target audience. As we had big guided tours from schools, and we try to shape a tolerant attitude to people with disabilities. And you know, children were very happy. School children were very happy about these guided tours. And we expect that there will be no big guided tours from school children in the next year to come. So the products that we are advertising currently will be more of the nature I just mentioned. And probably we will get back to the amount of guided tours we had, but that will be the gradual process. And for Lviv Museum, we now scheduled it for June, but our target audience will be slightly adjusted. We have also learned how to work under strict measures and under relaxed measures. And now we have reduced the number of visitors, and we also have different scenarios, for instance, distancing and disinfecting the premises between the groups. But if we have the stringent measures resumed, we will have to opt for the outdoor format, and it has to be cost efficient. It has to cover the rent of the building that is on standby. So we have various scenarios considered, and I hope that these stringent measures will not last long. That is why we have the strategy for each of these options.
Нас Максим сегодня в формате оффлайн, мы у него тоже спросим, есть ли у вас
Well, as we
планы
have Maxim physically with us now, I'd like to ask him if there are plans for Trava.ua. Yeah, for sure. We have increased our production 20%. We increased our product line, adding seven more products. We have totally redid our brand book, introduced more environmentally friendly packaging. Next year, we plan to provide more coverage to children in the scope of our uh, charity projects, and we plan to spend more funds on further development of children's culture and education, particularly in the east of Ukraine. We're able to provide our young customers with safety masks, gloves. Next year, plans include boosting production up 25%. Uh, I would really hesitate whistling up ambitious numbers for the coming year, given the situation. But still, we have an objective of reaching for the European markets in 2025, and we plan to be quite ready to fit into their rules for that. Uh, Thank you, Alina. And it's time to come for Ivan Kovalyshyn, founder of the DoRechi organization. Отрасль апропos. So, question: how did you fare before the coronavirus, and what is it like now? Before that, we had a good development prospects, and the pandemics made us review our plans. As Irina mentioned, there have been some positive and negative things happening, but that ultimately allowed us to really review what we have been doing. Our social enterprise works with second-hand clothing. We have collection boxes stationed across the city. Some of these are being sold, others distributed to needy groups. So about 50% goes to processing. Just about up to 10% is ready for being resold. The remainder is distributed among the needy groups. Before the corona, we had about eight staff. The majority representatives of target audience. The whole story actually began with us looking to find clothing for homeless persons. And then we decided that we could engage these guys in some socially meaningful ac- working activity, which might also help them as well. So before the coronavirus, we had uh, eight staff members. Two of us, me included, were like ordinary people. Six more from the homeless. We had a small storage facility, like 80 square meters, and we had a single car to work with it. We had to borrow from some fraternal organizations to do it. And when the coronavirus came, we had to review our situation because at some point we were in a heavy lockdown, and the Bukovina region, Chernivtsi were definitely the worst affected. So some first months were the most painful for us because we were really afraid whether we will survive. We did have some safety cushion, and we used it. Uh, we also negotiated certain rental discounts from property owners to make it easier for us. Uh, Target group representatives who work for us, they were with us for some months, and we really created the idea of less and less to pay them with. So we had to rethink some of our processes, like sorting the clothing, logistics, transportation things. We tried moving into online trade. Uh, Sadly, it didn't alleviate anything for us, didn't do anything uh, for us. We had to review our expenditure sides, particularly wages. We reduced the wages a bit to 70%, as well as had to trim other processes. But again, thanks for us having that safety cushion, we were able to survive through the harshest period in the quarantine. Uh, so actually, such a situation definitely spells the need to review business approaches inside the company. Definitely, you need to think of business components in your social enterprise because, again, without business, we won't have that safety cushion, this extra reserve fund, if you want, and we would not survive. So we are more looking for a viable business model for us to progress without really in the social component. We reduced a bit our staff membership from the target audience. At the moment, we have seven staff. Some key positions remain with us because they do understand that we need to keep some key positions intact to manage the whole thing. We also tried to look for alternative ways of distributing that clothing stuff, uh, used to do it through some shops. The quarantine stopped us from that, but we had to continue paying rental for it. We had to again review and we cut on our operational costs, expenditures. We did rethink of our strategy of sales on clothing, on footwear, checking which items could go at higher prices, which should go at socially acceptable one, just a couple of dollars per item. For the most part, we sell clothing at socially acceptable prices, like a couple of dozens of hryvnias if you want. But there are also some items that we sell a bit higher than that. So quarantine is sort of beneficial for us because we were able to review our sales strategy, our expenditure side. We understood how important it is to focus more on business aspects. That's it. Uh, Thank you. What size should this reserve fund be in your view? Well, it surely depends. But again, as Alina said also about it, when we were in this period of the harshest lockdown, when you can't make any move at all, yet you need to retain your people, you have to pay wages. So for Chernivtsi, we had to pay like 6 to 7 thousand hryvnias a person per head, monthly basis. So think roughly of 50,000 hryvnias a month. It's a given. Add here like about 300, 10,000 hryvnias of rental payments again monthly. So you can come to our estimate of this. They say generally that you need to have at least 3 months worth of income to be able to swim through that period. Okay, thank you. Let's switch to OZERO company to listen to representative of the company, Anna PONIKARCHUK, to hear how they fared throughout the quarantine. Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me? Yep. I'm Anna PONIKARCHUK, co-founder and operations director of OZERO company. We have three major lines of activity. First is zero waste brick and mortar and online shops where we sell uh, eco-friendly certified products. We actively communicate with our suppliers to see that the raw materials used for their production are sourced from really green suppliers. Then we have zero waste consulting for businesses where we advise companies, enterprises. We advise them how to reduce their waste, how to save and optimize their expenditures, and how to optimize their resources. It's very important for companies these days. And zero waste education and learning. The third line of activity, a variety of consultations and again trainings for businesses, for commercial users, like how to reduce waste and become more environmentally friendly, become greener. The team is rather compact. We have just five staff. We are 3 years old. The whole quarantine period was of great interest for us because we have always dreamed of having a space of our very own. We used to rent out premises, about 40 square meters, and it was quite cramped for us. We wanted to have more to allow for trainings, events, etc. And just a couple of days before the introduction of quarantine, we signed a rental contract for 140 square meter big premises in the central portion of Kiev. It wasn't easy for us, but our new uh, leaseholder assisted us. And in terms of our what we do and our view of it, on one hand, yes, toothbrush made of bamboo is not enough when it's a question of survival, of sanitation, masks, etc. Then we decided that it's a very nice niche because masks tend to be changed, it creates lots of waste. From here, we went to the idea of composting bins to help people sort out different sorts of waste. We focused on quality green soap made from plants. We have a nice supplier from Lviv. So we try to convey the message that stay cool, guys. We are with you. Everything will check okay. Just don't forget to sanitize your hands properly using our environmentally friendly and completely natural soap. We enjoyed an incredible support from everyone. Even our colleagues, like Olesa Bogoras, they helped us by launching a slogan like "Buy from the smaller fry" to support smaller businesses as opposed to bigger monsters. And we felt ourselves part and parcel of this rather small but neatly organized ecosystem of small companies, and we have been supporting each other throughout the quarantine. We plan to continue it further on. So I think for us, quarantine was the start of a bigger discussion about environmental responsibility, going greener, how everyone's decisions matter here when you opt for reusable packaging, where you try to source your foodstuffs from responsible suppliers. We had lots of online events to keep in touch with our audiences, to be able to discuss important topics. We had lots of small videos posted online on waste management, on minimalism, etc., etc., etc. So I also have answers to two questions, but you may want to put more questions to me. I'm ready to actually answer.
Погано чути, але розповісти про свої кейси, як ви справились з таким моментом, як COVID.
Could you please tell more, maybe, about your experience of living through the COVID time? One of the important targets for us objectives was to retain the staff without reducing their wages. We valued our team, we value them, we wanted to keep it as a family. For that purpose, some of us decided to let go of our salaries just for the sake of keeping the whole of the team. Like me myself, I didn't get any salary for a couple of months for that purpose. Actually, we have a practice of reviewing wages and salaries on a quarterly basis. Definitely, we want people to have competitive salaries. So we try to look into how to maintain financial our people. Have you got reserve fund? Just a minimum one, because for most part we reinvest our profits in business expansion. And well, Ivan was right actually, the one who spoke before me, that you need to think about a business model first and for all. This is really important. On the other hand, it brings sheer joy for everyone, to everyone doing it, because it creates the freedom to bring changes into the country. And really, thinking of business model is necessary if you want your project to persist, if you want your company to stay afloat. Yes, initially we thought of ourselves as an environmental project without caring too much about such business matters or business models. Now, I would definitely say if you are to start a social enterprise, think of yourself as a business entity and be very clear about it. You should also think about problems that chime in with others. You can think of a very important social problem, but if there is no echo in the public to it, you will fail. It's not enough to think that you're inspired by something. Check for feedbacks. Also, some businesses, social businesses, I mean, they try to not register. They try to be shy of that official recognition. My idea is go official. Just go official. It's so much easier when you can properly report before the government, before others. You can get clean, be bold, and this is my share and very heartfelt advice from the very beginning. Become official. We have lots of customers who still continue buying from us, communicating with us. So we've finally inaugurated our own space in the midtown of Kiev. We have even a cafe there, and you can go there. We spent definitely more than 2 months. We initially expected to refurbish the space, and couple of months still to go to finalize this refurbishment. But partly it is already ready, and you are completely welcome.
Тож переходимо до Олени Шевчук і
Uh,
послухаємо, як
Thank you,
мовно функціонує
Anna.
підприємство
Fortunately, your time is up because we still want to hear from another colleague, uh, from Potrib. Hi, I'm Ilona, and our enterprise does with the byproducts of furniture production and use banner materials. We we are rather informal in our business setting, so just don't be afraid if you see someone running in the background or some strange sounds, because we have just a bunch of very funny enthusiasts. Still, we at some point we came to a conclusion about what is actually our objective, what we want to do. We had training on social enterprise, and in a shorter time, we came up with the ideas of our early products, like the bags and purses that we had first on offer. We wanted to expand further, but then the quarantine time came. So at some point, our workshop was on the brink of complete stop, to the point when our chief manufacturer of this upcycled products, said that probably she would go back home until the quarantine is lifted. Well, at the moment, we really go through hard times and we try to keep in touch. We try to work online. Uh, we provide discounts to our customers. We do it in the form of like coupons. So those willing to use or to buy our products, they can get coupons with discount coupons, like to pay it forward. That way, they enable us to pay for our for space rental, some necessary upkeep. The leaseholder was kind enough to freeze the payments for us. Like a surprise for us. And again, these online orders with discounts allowed us to collect some funds to pay for 2 months of existence of our workshop. Actually, it's a bit stressful to be like this because we were fresh and green when we started, only to have this quarantine slept on us in a couple of months. But anyway, it was a good lesson, and it's nice to see that quarantine measures are being relieved on a daily basis. And actually, last Saturday, we were able to get the sewing machine that we dreamed about for quite some time, and we were given a flat interest loan for that.
Дякую, Ілона. Дякую, дякую. У нас
Okay, thank
час
you.
часу. Тож
We are abysmally short on time, but thank you for your case, for your experience, because they provide
технічні рішення були
really
придумані для того, щоб вийти із
warming and
цього.
positive
Тому
experiences for
дякую,
us,
передаю
for those dreaming
слово
about
Наталії,
the end of
щоб
quarantine.
говорила що нові сюрпризи
And
для
it's time to really hear more
майбутніх
from Natalia with more surprises to participants.